Hey there, I'm Luke Robinson, aka your big dog, the founder of Puppy Up. Well, actually, my Great Pyrenees Malcolm is really the founder of this story, and Malcolm, he was my mate. We didn't start out that way though, since a puppy was the last thing I needed or wanted in my life at that time. But an old friend who rescued him didn't accept that for an answer, and ta-da, I became a dad. And a bad one at the start. You see, I'd never had a dog in my adult life, and a Pyrenees is probably not the best starter puppy. Notoriously independent in mind and spirit, they don't really listen to first-time pet parents who have no idea what they're doing. But Malcolm eventually broke me, and we became inseparable. He was a man's dog, and like I like to remember him, he slept like Superman and peed like Steve McQueen. And so when Malcolm was diagnosed with bone cancer at the age of 6, my world was wrecked and torn asunder. You see, I never knew that a person could have a spiritual relationship with a companion animal until Malcolm. And when he passed after the cancer spread, I vowed to devote the rest of my life to this cause. And that promise became the vision of walking from Austin, Texas to Boston, Massachusetts with Malcolm's brother Murphy and my new Pyrenees rescue, Hudson. And after a year of training and preparation, I sold my truck, put all my possessions into storage, and the two fuzzy butts and I set off on a 2,300-mile walk. I can remember the launch day from Austin in March 2008 with perfect clarity, because I was both rocked with excitement and scared as hell. We had trained extensively, but the risk for my boys, Hudson and Murphy, would be considerable. And as a pet parent, it's a tough choice to make. But we set off on the road to Boston anyway, and immediately it fell apart. I was carrying way too much weight. Hudson got into a nest of fire ants, and a terrible storm was headed our way. The first 2 weeks were tough, and the three of us were already tired and beat up. I stayed up all night in the tent, debating myself as to whether we should and could continue. And then I thought of Malcolm and how he never gave up, not even till the end. And so we broke camp the next morning and continued on our journey, one that would test every aspect of our resolve to get to Boston.
Walking across 16 states is indescribable, as every one of them is uniquely challenging in its own right. But the one constant in our travels were the fuzzy butts and me, and the road quickly became our life together. Times in our tent were often miserably hot when we couldn't sleep further apart from each other, or brutally cold, and we learned the meaning of a two-dog night. I always slept with Hudson on one side, Murphy the other, and for 30 minutes I'd spoon with one of them, then turn to spoon with the other. But no matter the conditions, our tent was a magical place, at nighttime being serenaded by coyotes, the cicadas, and all the other sorts of night noises. Indeed, the rapport built between the three of us became unbreakable within months of launching from Austin. Hudson, Murphy, and I always found a way around or through the many challenges we faced on the road, but make no mistake, we walked with angels. I have countless harrowing stories of the near misses, but our mission was blessed by both grace and glory and the many great people we met along the way. And as we neared Boston, after an over 2-year trek, we were wagging tails to meet many of the pet parents of those angels. The route to Beantown through Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Southern Mass in the spring of 2010 was absolutely magnificent. Most people will never understand the daunting loneliness when one starts a long, uncertain journey, but we had the "we made it boys" feeling those final months. As they say, Boston is wicked awesome, and it did not disappoint that day. The final mile began beautifully with a prayer in the rose garden of Back Bay Fens, and then 500 or so pet parents with their puppers walked down Boylston and along Commonwealth Ave, and it was a sight to see. A tea party of a different kind. We stayed with hundreds of families along our journey, and the memory of all the people who came from 21 states to walk the final mile to Boston Common still chokes me up. And the gala that night was an even greater inspiration. The theme was, I will. If just a man from Texas with his 2 dogs can will themselves cross-country for the love of a companion, what can we all accomplish if we all will the same? I still often reflect on the day of the final mile, and perhaps the most important lesson I learned along our travels is how society values our dogs, both spiritually and scientifically. And although the Puppy Up Foundation has accomplished a tremendous amount in its mission since Boston, we still have a ton of work to do. The partnership between people and companion animals is never more critical than now, and I challenge you to join us in this year's first annual Puppy Up Virtual Walk. And Hudson, Indiana, and I will be joining you along the way. I still and always will walk for Malcolm. Puppy Up.